morning, Jeff. I wanted to take a moment here and re-record the video that I sent last week in reference to the lesson we had last week as well. Initially, we worked on a couple things here, and I think you're making some great improvements in the swing and making some great improvements upon going forward here. Now, when we look at a couple things here, first thing I'm going to discuss here is going to be your takeaway. Now we can see definitely a much better stance, much better position getting up over the ball from last time. But one of the things we still see, or one of the things we see as we take the club back that I noticed, is that the initial point of taking the club back really closed. And when I say really close, that means the face of the club is kind of pointing down towards the ground. We don't see a rotation of the hands or a rotation of the forearms going back or as we transfer our weight back to this left-hand side. And when we see that, this is kind of what we talk about. And I think this is a much better position. But when we see it taken back here, I think this is a great position going back. But there's a lot of the left hand still in this position taking the club back. And consequently, that's where we see the toe of the club or the face of the club pointing downward. Now, by it pointing downward or kind of at an angle here, there's a lot of control. I mean, a positive to this is there's not a lot of movement in the hand, but there is a definite control of just the left hand pulling the club back, and then consequently everything comes back. We see a good move down and through. Now, what we noticed from last time as well is that you weren't quite getting the weight back to this left hand side. So initially, it's something we talked about, and it kind of refers back to the first lesson. But initially, here in the beginning, like I said, it's just a lot of left hand pulling the club back, which consequently, leaves the face a little closed right at about halfway back. So what I wanted you to do is I wanted you to take your medicus club that we see here, and we want to tighten that tension up just a little bit. But as you go back, what I want to see is I want you to feel like the toe of the club was following along this line. As it follows along this line, right about just past the left toe or about 10 inches back is where I want to see a little more of a rotation of the hands, as we can see in this point. It's this part here. Let me erase the lines here on both sides. And what you can see is on this right hand side, you can see where the left hand is still on top, where there's a little more rotation of the forearms and hands in this position here, where vice versa, the toe of the club is pointing up to the sky. Take the club up. Much better, even a lot different position of where the hands are. The left arm is. You can see the left arm still being in a dominant position, kind of having that downward blow, whereas here it's a little bit more of a supportive position. And that's all just simply by having a proper rotation of the club going back and going up. So initially, I want you to do 10 to 15 swings, just kind of slowly taking the club back and through without that medicus breaking down. All right, so moving on here. The next position that we talked about here was trying to feel, and this is actually another picture of seeing the rotation back, getting that weight back to that left side. Much better position here compared to what we see here. And that's kind of talking about is just as you move back, just feeling that weight, and as you're going back. All right, sorry about that there, Jeff. Now, as we look at this, obviously a big difference on the left-hand side compared to what we see with the right. And what I'm discussing here is going to be, your position to take it to here. You can see the weight not getting all the way back. Whereas here, we see a little more shoulder turn through here compared to here as well. And that's just, a big difference. And, obviously, we didn't talk about it a lot on the right-hand side from the last lesson of you making a big full shoulder turn because, we were just talking just getting the weight and getting that weight transfer back to that left. Here, a little more weight to the right-hand side, gets us back here, to the left-hand side from the right, and then down and through. So very simple, just getting back, really focusing on making that rotation back, which another thought, gets that right shoulder turned back behind the golf ball as you turn back. So as you do that, like if there's a golf ball right here, you turn that right shoulder back behind it, well, obviously then that weight gets back to that left-hand side, and we swing down and we swing through. And that's all, essentially all I really wanted you to do there. Next, as we look at things here, I kind of gave you a position of hitting the bag. Now, by hitting the bag, what we're discussing here is trying to get you back in a little bit better impact, a little more drive from that left-hand side going to that right-hand side. And essentially, it's driving that left, getting that weight up off the left side. And I told you I want you to think about skipping a rock. And you can kind of see the right hip starting to turn and then the left hip turn as well. And that's what we're wanting to see as you come in, to where we don't see as much of that left hand really focusing on the ball and driving through, which we can see a big difference between there and you see right about here, as you start to hear, your hips stop moving. So as the hips stop moving, the left hand starts coming into play, and look at the difference between these two positions. You know, you can see there's little to no hip turn through here on the right hand side compared to here. That's what we're wanting to see. And it's just that little start of engaging, trying to get the hips to turn and turn through the shot without trying to have everything help with just the left hand. So 10 to 20 swings into the bag is all I'm really wanting you to feel, that position as well. Now the last thing that we talked about was the lighted pole drill. Now when we talked about the lighted pole drill, this is what we talked about. We went inside and it was kind of going up. Now I'm going to kind of go back here. Let's slow it down. You can see the light in between your pass here. Get the position right, I'm sorry. So you see the light going back. Now what I essentially wanted you to do as you take the club back, or as you take the light back, I want the light to follow down the path. Halfway back, the light should be pointing right to the wall right behind you. So then right about here, as the hands start to go up, you kind of see how the light right here is coming from the outside. Well, if the light is coming from the outside, that means that left hand has come in a little bit and you start to pull the club back behind you. But you can watch as it comes from the outside, it's kind of right there, you kind of focus it right there. And see here as you go up, now it's back in its position. And that's kind of what we want to see. We want to see that top of the U getting up there, and then as the club comes down, light comes down, left elbow goes to the side, look how that light stays down the path. Stays down the path. Right here, hips turn through, great swing, follow through everything, drive down through the ball was perfect there, Jeff. And that's what we kind of want. So this is kind of a training aid as far as getting you a swing, trying to get the hands, everything going up in the proper position back and forth. 20, 30 swings with that. This is something obviously you can do while watching the Cardinals on TV. But it's something that as you swing down and you swing through, keeping that light within our path. That's the whole part, is going back and going forth, where we're staying on one plane and one position back and forth, keeping that light in position as we take it back. You can see how there's that light right there. There's that path of that light. It gets up here, and as you bring it down, down and through. All right? So, to review, we talked about the rotation with the hands and the forearms, taking back, getting that toe going up. 2, we talked about getting that weight back to the left-hand side. All right, big, most important. And then as you come down into it, now the weight back to the left-hand side was kind of a review from last week, so I'm not really including in that 2 to 3 things that we generally talk about. But when we look here, what we're thinking about, the second thing in a sense for you is getting a little initiation of that left hip as it starts to come down and drive into impact. Okay, right there. You kind of see a little better position through here and then down through impact. Okay? And then lastly, was getting the club set as you take the club up. Now, the whole purpose of this is, with this light, trying to get you into a better position, feeling it going back and going forward. Now, if you have any questions, Jeff, I want you, by all means, to give me a call, 314-724-6539, or shoot me an email at michaelwyattgolf@gmail.com. Thank you, sir.